Welcome to the time of your life, the show where I ask, what would you do if you won a $2 billion lottery? With me today, I've got Lauren, a good friend of mine that I met singing karaoke at the bar. My name's David Ploof. I'm your host. Let's get started. Lauren.
Hey.
Happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
Is awesome.
I want you to imagine
Okay.
last week you bought a lottery ticket.
Okay.
You checked the numbers. They all matched. You won $2 billion.
Okay. Oh.
The money is settled in your bank account. We're in Ferndale, Michigan. It's 5:51. What do you do first?
Oh, okay. What do I do first? Just even like reactionary, or what's the first thing that I would think about buying?
However you want to phrase it.
Oh my gosh. I think I would go into shock if I won that much money at once. But then, yeah, I think the most immediate thing would just be planning a bucket list and then just running through all of those things.
Do you think, how do you write out your bucket list?
It probably should be more organized than it is. I think I do it like on a yearly basis at this point. Yeah. I have like a summer bucket list currently, but I would have to think more expansively if I have like $2 billion.
So on your bucket list, and that is the list of things that you want to do before you kick the bucket.
Yes.
Is it organized in any kind of like priority list? Are there things that you want to do more than the other things, or is it just kind of like a list?
Yeah. So it sometimes is just a list, and it could be like very small things. Like it could be like concerts, or it could be just like, hey, I want to have like a nice walk or like yoga outside in the sun when it's 80 degrees and the sun's fully out. Like it could be a lot of different things, but then also it can be a travel list too. So that's why I'd bring it up.
Okay. So some of the things are like a lot easier. You can just do on the day that it feels right.
Yes.
And other things are like take a little more planning.
Exactly. Yes.
Are there any things that are like at the top of that list?
Oh, okay. So I've always wanted to go like skydiving, which is hilarious because I'm afraid of heights, like deathly afraid.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if I was actually in a plane that I wouldn't jump out.
I've always wanted to go skydiving. I haven't yet.
I mean, I've known friends that have done it and they've traveled to like nice locations. Like I had a friend that went to New Zealand and did some skydiving and showed me the video, and I probably would have like blacked out from shock on the way down. But I mean, that's like a cool like fear to accomplish. In that way,
to overcome your fears and just like
jump
be
out
that much more exhilarating, that much more thrilling.
Yes.
I know when I was in Hawaii, that was like a really popular destination for skydivers. And I'm sad that I didn't do it while I was there.
Yeah.
And I've seen like some amazing footage of people skydiving in like Dubai and like you're saying like New Zealand. Is there a place that you would travel to go skydiving?
I feel like, okay, Dubai would be awesome, but at the same time, I don't know, like something scenic, very mountainous, like tropical area. So I don't know if like Thailand or like New Zealand's a given, right? But like something that you're looking at and you're like, okay, wow, this is very beautiful on the way down. But I feel like if I was in Dubai and I saw a lot of buildings, I'd be like, what if I land on one of them? I don't know.
They probably have that figured out, I would imagine. For your first time, it usually has to be tandem. Mm-hmm. So you have to like go down with a partner.
Oh yeah, with somebody like strapped to your back.
Yeah, and then I think usually they pull the cord.
Okay, good. Because I wouldn't know the logistics of that.
Right? Just in the plane, terrified of heights. Like, all right, here we go.
Jump out. Yes.
You said that's like near the top of your list. Mm-hmm. Is that something you would want to do? Like, what would the timeline be? Would you try to do that like tomorrow? Or like when do you book the flight to go to New Zealand or go to, wherever it is that you choose?
I feel like it's something you would have to do immediately, right? Like you can't sit on it for like half a year or a month. You would just have to be like, okay, especially if you have the money and like the means to be able to do it, right? So
yeah,
if you're able to be like, hey, let me book a flight somewhere, let me book the experience, let me just go, I'd say like 2 weeks. Like
2 weeks out?
Yeah.
Do you bring anyone with you?
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. I feel like I would need like a best friend to come with me just to be able to experience it, but then also like to convince me to still do it.
Yeah, someone that's really on board, someone that...
For sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like you know in your mind, do you know who you would invite?
Yeah. I think it's like one of two people right now. Or maybe even, oh no, okay, no. I have a friend that I've known since college, and she's very spontaneous. So I feel like you could tell her like, hey, I'm going skydiving in like 2 days. And she'd be like, okay, like I want to come with you. And that's the type of energy that I would need to carry me through that.
Yeah. Do you have a job right now?
I do. Yeah.
Would you quit your job?
Oh, yeah.
Would you tell your job that you're quitting your job, or would you just stop showing up?
That's a good question. I feel like I would tell my immediate team because they're sweethearts and I love them. But broader, like it wouldn't be anything that's like, oh, let me give you 2 weeks, or like, oh, let me think about. No, it's just going to be like, okay, I won the lottery. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So you stop showing up to work.
Yes.
You call your best friend. You say, hey, 2 weeks from now, booking a flight, going skydiving.
Yes.
She says, that's awesome. That's great. Now you've got 2 weeks between you and your flight, between now and your flight.
Okay.
I imagine it doesn't take that long to like pack.
No.
Or something like that, probably.
No.
So now you've got 2 weeks to just do whatever you want. Are you relaxing? Are you going out to nice dinners? Are you doing the same things you normally do? What do you think
I don't know. I feel like I would have at least 1 week if you immediately quit your job, just like full relaxation, right?
Yeah.
Like just like, okay, I'm not taking any calls. I'm not doing anything. Like no one needs me right now. I'm just resting up. And then you can think about packing and everything. But also, if you're going all the way to New Zealand or across the world, that gives you time to do like a multiple location trip that you can also plan out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're researching, looking up cool destinations, places that you want to see, or possibly activities that you want to participate in.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Today, coincidentally, happens to be 420. Happy 420.
Happy 420.
Do you relax in any... Do you partake of the relaxation for which the holiday we celebrate?
I mean, we are in Ferndale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally legal. Legalized
and
cannabis.
There's a dispensary like on every.
Yeah, every corner.
Throw a rock and hit one. So yes, that would be something that I would partake in.
Do you have like a favorite strain or a favorite dispensary?
I'm not even that complicated. No, I think just the one that was closest to me at this point. So it'd either be Green Buddha or Live.
Yeah, I jog past Green Buddha all the time. They have such a cool sign.
They do. I think it's a clever name. Like you kind of have to base them of like, okay, I see how you got to this name and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So.
Do you like flower, joints, blunts, bowls, bongs?
Probably.
I started calling
joints.
the vaporizers steam sticks.
Probably more joints if I were to do so, but yes.
Okay. So you still have a lot of time.
Yes.
Like, let's say you've made that call, you have booked the flight, you got your joint if that's something you wanted. Where do you go next?
Where do I go next? Okay, so when I'm on the trip to New Zealand and I'm already there chilling,
you haven't left yet. So you have 2 weeks because you booked 2 weeks out.
Dang it. Okay.
I mean, you could change your flight. You could just say, you know what? We're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, no, I think what would be cool too is to do like maybe an impromptu road trip to visit friends in different cities. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Yeah. So I have a close friend in Chicago. She would definitely be the first person that I hit up. And then I have friends that are scattered along like either the East Coast or West Coast. So just kind of being able to do that and then exploring the States a little bit more would be
awesome. Do you
awesome.
Have a reliable car now?
I do.
Would you keep your car or would you upgrade?
I feel like I would keep my car because I love it. Obviously, if you're rocking with that much money, you probably would get an upgrade at some point. But that wouldn't be my first thought. Let's say that.
Yeah, if I had that much money, I think I would almost want to like ditch the car.
Yeah.
And just because like, what do I need a vehicle for anymore? Just move to someplace with public transportation, and
That's true.
we can all dream.
Yeah. Well, okay. So are you more of like a big city person? That
I love the city. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
I visited New York this past summer and Christmas. My brother lives there.
Nice.
And I like, if it wasn't for this podcast, I might have already moved there. But I decided like this is something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to connect with all these cool people that I started meeting at places like, Detroit Axe, and then I found a nice job here, and I got kind of settled, and I was like, okay, this place is all right.
That's amazing. You're like, a podcast kept me in Ferndale of all things. Yes.
Well, I've got family, like other family nearby, so it was it's a lot of factors on both ends.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Do you feel like you would have like a big celebratory meal?
Ooh, okay. Well, I don't know, because the whole thing about like, the whole thing where people win lotteries but then don't tell people that they win lotteries.
Yeah, most people try to keep it anonymous.
I feel like I would kind of roll like that, but only for like a small group of people would know.
Do you tell like friends, family?
Friends, immediate family,
yeah,
not extended. But then, yeah, I would just kind of keep it like in a small group of people and be like, hey, listen, I came into some money.
Where do you go for that celebratory meal? Or do you maybe like buy just expensive food and cook it yourself? Or like how do you play it?
I feel like I would do like a sort of like, it would be at somebody's home, kind of like a get together type of thing. I mean, if you have that much money, you can like rent out like a catering or a chef experience too.
If that's something you're into, yeah.
Which would be cool. Cause it's like, I don't know. I like cooking for people, but at the same time, I'm not that good of a cook to cook for people like that on that scale. So I don't know. That would be a cool thing to do.
Do you have like a favorite food?
Oh my God. I love food too much. I don't even think I have a favorite food. It just literally depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your diet like? So I tell people I'm 95% plant-based.
Gotcha.
So I don't eat meat. I don't eat cheese. That was pretty recent. I gave up cheese in the new year.
Oh, gotcha.
I've been vegetarian for about 3 years now. So like a tenth of my life. Not that long, but also kind of long.
I mean, that's commitment for sure.
But I'll still eat like cookies and breads and muffins and things.
The good stuff.
Yeah, because like everything has butter in it, and I'm just not that militant. Like I don't care.
You're like, I can't cut that out of my life. I can't.
Yeah, well, it just became this thing where I would be with family or friends, and they'd be like, "Hey, you want a cookie?" And I'm like, "Oh no, sorry, can't." Like it's got butter in it, or it's got milk in it, or it's like, "Oh, you want this? You want this?" And like I don't want people to have to like tiptoe around me.
I get you. I don't say I have any chosen or dietary restrictions or limitations, but I think it's awesome when people do. So it's like my best friend has been vegan for like, I think 10 years.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
amazing.
Awesome. Like that level of commitment, I don't think I could keep to anything. So that's really cool. But yeah, no, I really like to try new things, especially when you're in like an area and they're like, oh, this is a specialty. I'm like, okay, I don't even care. Let's do it.
I had one guest who said she'd only eat oysters.
Really?
She's like, oh, I'm just going to start eating oysters for every meal.
You're like, that's a day in the life. That's like such a like specific choice too, but I appreciate that as well. Like I'm living in luxury.
It must be a texture thing. Yeah, people that love them. They're certainly a delicacy. But certain foods like that, like lobster, it was originally like for prisoners, like because it was thought to be like this like dirty food. And now, of course, like people pay, top dollar for.
Yes. Yeah. For lobster, it's like a premier. Yeah, it was like a crustacean. So they considered it like peasant food.
Yeah. I'll read about stuff like that sometimes. I'm like, who's making these distinctions? Because I saw something once. It was like, oh yeah, the peasants were eating potatoes while the wealthy were eating like fruit. I'm like, potatoes sound delicious. Potatoes, I mean, like I love fruit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, have some variety in your diet.
Yeah, like who's creating these social norms, especially during like specific times? Like, we can always eat potatoes. It doesn't matter.
Do you think you'd want to change your living situation at all?
Yeah. Okay.
Are you in like a house or do you have an apartment or
I'm in an apartment in Ferndale.
do you share it with people or a person?
Yeah, well, I go back and forth between like having a roommate and then not. So it's like kind of been like that for the past couple of years. But I would definitely want to like look at property or a house, but I've always like the thing that's kept me back from that is I don't know if I want to stay in Michigan for long term.
Right.
So that would be the thing.
Well, now you're at the point where you could just have multiple homes.
Exactly. You can just buy up property in like the nicest places and just be like, hey,
Yeah.
this is where I live.
Yeah, have a summer home. You could have a home for every month if you wanted to.
It's like, oh my gosh. I don't even think I could keep up with that amount of upkeep. But yeah, a beach house somewhere, like on the west side, California, probably.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes. And
You
then-
like spending time at the beach?
Yeah, of course. And then maybe like even like an up north, not even like an up north Michigan like area where you're like in the cabin or anything like near lakes. Like I want to see mountains. So like cabin in Sedona, maybe.
Ooh, I've heard a lot of good things about Sedona. I've never been to Arizona to my memory. I might have like driven through it or like flown over it or something.
I don't remember.
But as far as I'm aware, I've never been to Arizona, but I hear really good things.
It's beautiful. I like started like a tradition that's kind of like been yearly for the past 2 years with my friend Perry that you've
Yeah,
also
I was just
met.
about to say, I think I saw the photos of you and Perry. Yeah.
So that's been a time. So we'll pretty much just go to like the Phoenix area where we'll stay, but then we're like, oh, like let's go to Sedona for the weekend. And that was like this previous fall. And it was beautiful. I was like, it's just red rock everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that where, no, Red Rocks Amphitheater, that's in Colorado?
That's in Colorado. Yeah.
That's another place I've always wanted to visit.
I know, me too. I'm like, oh.
Do you have any like concerts or festivals that you'd want to attend?
Oh, okay. So I don't know about now because the whole Coachella thing is coming out, and I feel like it's
is there like controversy or drama? Over I have yet to hear.
okay. So I absolutely love Frank Ocean, and that was kind of one of the things that I was like, oh, I like before I died. Like speaking of bucket list, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, I want to see Frank Ocean live before I die. Like that's something I have to do. But he's like so like mysterious and he's like, oh, I only perform at like large concert venues or like international. Like I don't fuck with the US at all. And so I'm like, okay, fine. And so he was headlining for Coachella like maybe a few days ago. And people were waiting to see like if it was going to be live streamed because everyone else was live streamed.
Oh yeah.
And he apparently didn't allow people to live stream his concert, which was like,
I mean, that's like, I'm conflicted. If I was a large artist, like I've been to concerts, like not even large artists, just they want you to be present and like,
sure.
you know, don't record this or don't, you know, whatever. For something like that, like he asked people not to, I mean, asking people doesn't stop people, right?
That's
like if
true.
someone wanted to, they could just like have their phone
Like,
or
I
was
wonder-
there, like, what was the enforcement?
I have no clue, but like, so the only thing that's been leaked is that apparently it was like a nightmare. Like
Like not a good set?
it was not a good
Like he
set.
didn't put on, maybe that's why you did it.
And I was like, okay, I get it if it's like the mystique, like you don't want it to be live, like it's only like an exclusive experience. But the fact that it was like, it was apparently really bad. And then he ended the set early because they're like, oh, we can't go over like a certain curfew.
Whoa.
And he got like booze and stuff. And I was like, oh, Frank.
Like
no.
how do you even, like, was his like voice off that day? Or like, what do you think was bad about it?
I think it was just like lack of coordination. Like he didn't know, like there wasn't like a official set, like you know how the graphics and everything kind of goes with the whole.
Yeah.
That wasn't on par, and maybe he just, I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to be there. And so the controversy that's happening is that it's a 2-week thing, so he pulled out of being a headliner for the next week. And I was like, dang, Frank, that's wild. So imagine spending all that money to see like one of your favorite artists. And they're just like, you know what?
Not for
I
me
just wanted
today.
the money. Yeah.
So now that you laid that out, I do remember seeing one of my friends posted like a defense of him,
Yes.
and I didn't even realize what she was talking about. But one of my friends was on Instagram was just like, "You guys are lucky he even showed up. Like he's so cool, and you guys are so like such super fans. Like
Right.
like if that's all you bought your ticket for, you deserve it." It's like it's like there's so much other stuff going on, and I was reading this. I'm like, what?
You're like, what's the background?
Yeah.
Ugh. Gotta love social media for that. You're like, what's the context? You just have to like fish around for it, pretty
Right.
much.
That is interesting that it was somehow that bad that it caused like people to make controversy.
So that's getting into this whole rant. I didn't mean to go down this pathway, but I was like, oh, like a thing would be like, I want to see Coachella. Like that's like the whole
I mean, I think it would still be cool.
But it depends. Like if I was seeing Beyonce's Coachella, I would go back in time to see Beyonce's Coachella.
Yeah.
But it depends who's headlining. I'll say that.
So when I go to festivals, I've started doing this thing for a while, and I haven't been to a festival for a while, where I try not to even look at the lineup. Like I don't even look to see who's playing. Like when I went to Electric Forest, well, I'm going to Electric Forest this year.
Okay.
And I know like a few of the big names just because like you can't avoid it. They're like Odessa is going to be like other than that, like I can't even name, I couldn't even tell you who's going to be there.
That's awesome.
Because when I go to something like that, something I've realized, if I'm just chasing like the biggest artist or the biggest name, like what will happen is like the people that I'm with, cause usually like I'll, meet up with friends at something like that, or have a little clique or a little group where we'll all be together. And if opinions start to differ, it's like, oh, I really want to go to this stage. Oh, I really want to go to this stage. Mm-hmm. I would rather just like create memories with my friends and like hang out with my friends than see, be able to say like, oh, I saw this artist at this stage.
Yes. Okay. I do get that. I think that's a funny like music festival thing to think about, I guess, is like, oh, I want to see this artist, but you may not want to. Right. So now we have to prioritize. So that's a good point. I like that. It's kind of a little bit freeing too. Like you're just going with the flow.
It removes all the stress, because there have been times where I'm like, oh, I got to get to this stage at this time so I can see this person. But once you stop caring and you start just like enter the moment, it's like there's nowhere you can go that's bad. Like it's all okay.
It sounds like a little life motto. Like once you stop caring, it just gets easier and you kind of just go with the flow.
A little bit. So I'm a pizza delivery driver. That's my job. And I'll listen to music all day because, obviously. And I was listening to Galantis the other day, and one of their songs is called Don't Care. And the lyric was just like, I just don't care. I just don't, like over and over and over again. I was like, this is kind of catchy.
It's like, okay, like you just don't care. Oh man. No, that sounds great. I'll add that to my Spotify playlist.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song. Another book. So I've been into reading a lot. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you've seen my book reviews that I post.
No.
Oh yeah, I post them on my Instagram story. So they're only up for like 24 hours. Yes. So a lot of people miss them. Follow me on Goodreads. If you get the Goodreads app, I only have 3 friends. But follow me on Goodreads for all my book reviews. One of the first books that I completed when I started getting into reading was called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay, I've heard good things about this book.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So you would
I wouldn't say it was amazing by any means. It wasn't like, I think I gave it probably like a 7 or 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. That's like a decent, that's a decent
like
rating.
Worth reading.
Not overhyped, but like.
Yeah, don't get your expectations like too high.
Right, like it's not going to change your life or anything.
It could. But maybe.
Not a 7.5. Oh no, that's awesome.
Well, one of the like mottos in that book, or like one of the themes in that book, is like the best way to like have a good life is to not care about most stuff, but care a lot about the stuff that you do care about. Okay. So it's like the subtle art of not giving a fuck. It's like, don't let the little shit get you down, or don't let like little things bother you. But also, you know, you want to have morals, or you want to have ethics. Right. Like you got to draw the line somewhere.
You can't just be running through life like that.
Yeah. If you're a total, like, I mean, I am somewhat in favor of like anarchy. And I've met some really cool nihilists, but I will say for the most part, like you got to have, at least a little direction.
Like I love that though. It's like you can't just be running around in life with no morals. Like you have to have some sort of ethical code or I think it's just understanding who you are and like figuring out, you know, when's the time to push the boundary, when's the time to like stay in your comfort zone, and like what do you want to do? I think like a lot of the times we just do what other people want us to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I think once you kind of get past that, then you're like, okay, this is my life. I'm just going to do whatever. And if I make some mistakes, as long as you're here after those mistakes, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, some mistakes are worse than others, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to prioritize the mistakes. Yeah, there are some worse than others for sure.
But for the most part, you know, for right now, like I think we're all good.
Like small mistakes, not bad. Not bad at all. So.
Yeah. And then if you just don't care,
then are they really mistakes? Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your perspective, depends on your lens, depends on how you look at it. That was interesting. You said something that reminded me of, I just started writing a book.
Oh. Okay.
I've got 3 books that I've written. They're all kind of like low content books. A meditation book, poetry book, and then I've got another book called The Psychedelic Panda.
Nice.
And I started a new book that's going to be called The Time Traveler's Casino. And one of the themes in my book is going to be the idea of like, what do you want to do? Because the idea is there's this like futuristic society where everyone is kind of like just run through this system of education where everything's very like regimented or straightforward, and like they do what they're told and they do what they want to do. And this kid gets through the system and he meets someone and gets asked like, well, okay, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't know.
No, I love that concept. It's like you want to get into like the dystopian type of like book series of like,
yeah,
okay. But that's a good metaphor of like, asking, you know, like a 17-year-old what they want to do for the rest of their life when they get out of high school.
Yeah, that's kind of where I got it from.
Got you. From a universal experience. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds like a cool book. That's
so
awesome.
We got to this through like Coachella.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. So you would want to go to something like Coachella?
I would want to go to Coachella, but just, I feel like for the experience of it, but also I want like the artistry of it too. Yeah. Like if there's somebody I'm dying to see, then yes, of course.
What would you wear if you went to Coachella? Do you feel like you already have an outfit, or would you need to acquire a new outfit?
I would need to get a new outfit. Like
outfits probably.
Yeah. Like I feel like this is going to sound so dumb. I feel like I have like outfits for like Midwest music festivals.
For like,
but like not
the moment you said Midwest music festivals, the first thing that came to my mind was faster horses. I was like, oh, so what, like cowboy hats and overalls?
Like Mopop, Lollapalooza.
Oh yeah, Mopop.
Yeah. Definitely not faster horses, but yeah, I'm like,
I mean, what do you wear to Mopop? Just like, I mean, people wear just like whatever. It's just like a really Saturday.
Just like summertime energy, like anything that just like expresses that to you. Like I've done different stuff. I've kind of like gone through like a floral summer look, I guess.
Cool.
Yes. So that's oddly been a consistency, even though I haven't really thought about it. It's just like, okay, this is what's in my closet. This is what I'm going to wear. So yeah, no, I've been to like Lollapalooza a couple of times, and I actually wore like the same fit 2 years in a row just to do like the like before and after pic, I guess. But I mean, if an outfit's good.
I mean, if an outfit's good, you want to, you know.
Gotta expand on it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm always fascinated by like the accessories that people have. There's some really creative stuff. Like one of the coolest ones that I've seen, I haven't actually seen it in real life, but I've seen like advertisements for these sunglasses that are wire wrapped sunglasses. So they've got, it's just like, a cool pair of sunglasses, but then on top of that, it's accented with like wire wrapped, like jewelry. Like I think typically they're like just like rhinestones and stuff. It's not actual like precious gems, but they totally could be.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It depends who's wearing them.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes they'll get really creative with the like three lensed sunglasses, and it's like, oh, it's for my third eye.
Just to perfect the vision in my third eye, like it's fine.
Yeah,
guys, I got it.
I thought it was pretty clever.
No, that is cool. I feel like, I don't know. The cool thing about going to those events is like seeing what other people wear.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, damn. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
Or like, oh, have you been going through the time where you'll see things come back into fashion?
Yeah. I mean, when I worked at Starbucks, I would notice that a lot. I worked at the Starbucks in Birmingham for a while.
Yeah. And
I would see like, oh, wow, people are wearing bell bottoms again. And like, oh, jean jackets are making a comeback. Like, how about that?
It's so dramatic. I went to like a college bar and I saw these girls in like you remember the jumpsuits, like the velvet jumpsuits?
I mean, I don't know if I remember them. I'm aware of them.
I was like, yo, like this is crazy. That was late 90s and like early 2000s. And I was like, I didn't think this would be making a comeback, but it's so specific and so strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Do you think you would start just wearing stuff like that everywhere if you're a multi-billionaire?
No. Okay, I was about to say, I feel like my wardrobe wouldn't change, but no, it definitely would. I think I would be more susceptible to impulse buys.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any like lines of clothing or designers that you're particularly fond of?
Not really. Like I don't really follow like brands that specifically. It's kind of just like, okay, does this look cute? Is this a cute color? Like, oh, my friend was wearing this. Like maybe I'll try it out. Like kind of thing where it's like spur of the moment. Yeah. And you're like, okay. So really anyone, that's what I'm saying. Like anyone can market towards me and I'll be like, that's actually very cute. So
yeah, I'm kind of the same way. For a while when I was working at a restaurant in Detroit, one of my coworkers was really into like the Supreme stuff, the like hype beast, like these like artificially expensive clothes that were just like cool because they were expensive, and they were expensive because they were like limited by this like company that just like did this whole thing. And I told him like, even if I had all the money in the world, I would never wear that. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like this shirt costs like $1,000. Like it's so cool. I'm like, yeah, if I had all the money in the world, I would still never wear that because it's not like, that's just not my style. If that's your style, I apologize. One day maybe.
No need to offend.
Yeah.
I get that too. I never really got that trend, especially since it's something so simple, like block lettering and like red background.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're spending like how much for that? Like, it's not even a sense of fashion. Like, okay, if something's looking like really good, like I can understand you spending the money on it, but just to spend the money on it because other people spend the money on it and then thinking it's cool is just capitalism at its finest, I think.
Yeah, late stage capitalism.
Right.
One term I've heard used to describe it. I would much rather have like unique things that like no one else has, or like unique fabrics or unique cuts. Like I was really into like linen 3/4 sleeve shirts for a while, and I would walk around and I'd never see anyone else with those. Being unique isn't always like the best thing to be. There's a great Dimitri Martin skit, the comedian, where he's like, man, I would ride around on a unicycle all day and be like, look at these fools. Like, no one else is riding a unicycle. I'm the cool guy riding the unicycle. When I should have been thinking, hey, I'm the only one riding a unicycle.
Oh no. Oh gosh. No, I get that. That actually is
Yeah.
a good
I actually had a unicycle for a little bit.
Oh man.
I never quite learned how to ride it. I could ride it like maybe like down the block.
I was about to say, were you good at it? Because that's so like I would respect it. I'd still question why you're on a unicycle, but with balance intact and being able to keep up with it, it is a skill.
Well, I'm a juggler, so I
Oh.
thought it was just like the natural progression.
Two
like
for one.
Juggling
Yeah.
on a unicycle.
You're making it very hard for yourself, I think.
I mean,
that's
I've got a lot of friends that are clowns, and they're cool people.
awesome. Okay. Debunking the whole clown myth.
Well,
Clowns are
if they're like over like 40 or 50, then it starts to get a little sketch.
Got it.
But like the clowns that are my age, they're not really like children's performing clowns. They just kind of like do it for themselves, or like adult clowns.
Okay, that's incredible. Also,
Yeah.
you heard it here first. There's a certain age limit to being a clown.
You know, I'm
before it
not
gets
an
creepy.
authority. I'm not, if you want to be,
If you want to be a clown, hey,
yeah,
do what you got to do.
follow your dreams,
Exactly.
no matter how old you are.
This is so random. But do you remember that time period where like American Horror Story was really big, and there would be
Yeah, I remember when it was popular. I don't think I feel like maybe because that was a series, right?
Yeah, but there was a time where people just would walk. I think it was mainly in California or other places, but people would just walk around in clown costumes, like masked.
Oh
clown
yeah,
costumes all
yeah,
the
that was a
time.
thing for a while.
And I was like, this is terrifying trend. We need to not do this anymore. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
well, I
was-
think that stopped.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like during the time, I was like, okay, this is the end. Like, you ever just see things and you're like, no, this is the end. Like, we're not, like, we can't progress from this, and then it just somehow gets worse.
Yeah, it gets weirder.
Yeah.
Like for a while there, when like a bunch of strange news would keep coming out,
Yes.
I saw one guy and he was like, you know what? They could go on the news and just say like, guess what? Trees are eating people now, and everyone would just be like, yeah, whatever. Like,
I think they did like didn't they look into UFOs and they like confirmed like the existence of
well,
some
that was really
UFOs?
recent. That was like a couple weeks ago. People were getting all into UFOs. But so crazy coincidence. I'm actually wearing a shirt right now.
That's a UFO shirt? Yeah. Stop. What?
It's a UFO factory in Corktown.
I love it so much.
But what I always say is anything can be a UFO if you're bad enough at identifying flying objects.
I mean, it is literally an unidentified flying object. So yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Very.
I have seen some stuff though. There was one time I saw this thing in the sky, and I was at a park. This was while I was in Hawaii, and there was just some like dot in the sky, and me and a bunch of other people were like, "What is that?" And none of us can figure it out. And I still don't know.
You're like, I'll let this one go.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happened to me, but recently. It was like I was in Ferndale and I was kind of walking around, and it must have been last year, or no, it was when we were getting like really nice days, but it was still during like the fall. And I just looked up and it was like a clear sky, and it was pretty much like this downward, it was almost like a plane, like, a distant plane where you see like the kind of like trail of white.
Yeah.
But it was going down, and it was red, like just beet red. And I took a picture of it too. And I was like, I don't know, like if something happened somewhere, like I'll have photo
Yeah,
proof, but
gosh.
nothing happened. I was just like, okay, I guess.
I know there's been some like meteors and stuff like over Russia, because like I guess that's the thing in Russia is like everyone has dash cams, and so there's a bunch of footage of just like some like
meteors.
Lit up the sky, and we were like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh wait, I think I've seen those because they'll completely light up the sky. Like it'll be pitch black and it'll go. That would trip me up actually.
That'd be really trippy.
Badly.
That and like eclipses. Have you ever seen an eclipse?
I have, but it wasn't even like a good story. Like, remember when it was the whole thing where it's like, oh, because that happened a couple of years ago was the last eclipse. But no, I had friends that were like, yeah, we went like up north to like do all this stuff. And I think I was just doing like menial things during the day. Like I wasn't even really focusing in on it too much, and I should have.
Well, unless you go to like one of the places that it's like a full
Right.
like full eclipse, you don't really experience that much, or you have to get like the special glasses.
Exactly.
But some people are really into that. They like dedicate their lives. Like, oh, I gotta go be in Massachusetts in the whatever, like 5 years from now on this day to experience the full eclipse.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and then like maybe it's cloudy.
Oh, that would. Oh no, I couldn't do it. I would be like, okay, I'm never planning anything ever again. Oh, okay. Wait. Speaking of bucket lists, traveling someplace to see like the Northern Lights or Aurora. Would be so
Aurora
cool.
Borealis.
Yes. Like even maybe I think like Iceland is like also a good place to like see it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be somewhere drastic, like not even just like, oh, we caught it in like Michigan somewhere. Like no.
Yeah, I was up north in Michigan once on like a camping trip with some friends.
And you saw it?
Yeah. Well, one of my friends had like an app on his phone that was like, it would alert him for solar storms. Okay. And he's like, hey guys, like we got to go to the lake right now. Like there's like a solar storm. And we got there and it was like little like green.
That's
like we could,
so cool.
It was really dim. It was like pretty faint, but it was definitely there. And I was like, it was cool.
That's really awesome. Also, that's a good friend to have that just randomly.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I never thought about. But,
You're like, okay.
Like, thanks, Mike.
There's an app. Yeah, thanks, Mike. There's an app for everything, I guess, which is really cool. So, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, definitely if you go travel somewhere, like even just like Alaska or
yes, that's a big
probably
one too.
Iceland, or, how far north do you want to go?
It's like it would be cool to travel up north, but also I'm not a super big fan of the cold, so that would be very difficult for me.
Yeah.
You gotta balance it out, like a give and take.
I don't quite remember how we got here. It's something about Coachella and Frank Ocean.
That was the last thing, because you were saying like, oh, what concerts would you go to? And then I got into the controversy. Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite artist?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Frank Ocean is definitely one of them. I'm getting into like mainly like the R&B artists. So like SZA, like I'm getting really into Sir. Like I'm getting into like different artists.
How is that one spelled, Sir?
So like SIR, but like the I is like not a capital. But I mean, hey. If you wanted to be able to spell it out, you never know. So
okay,
I don't know. Dot, like there's different things.
Or like SIRR, like you could do whatever. SER, I don't know.
You never know.
Well, because you said SZA, I'm like, okay, I don't know SZA well.
SZA's so good.
But it's like SZA, right?
You got it.
Yeah. And so then you're
on.
like, sir. I'm like, well, I can only imagine it's probably like.
You're like, there's only really one way to go.
Say the same thing about SZA.
No, I feel like there's probably so many like mispronunciations, but then like also like Ari Lennox, like Jasmine Sullivan, like there's so many artists that like are just so good, and just produce great music. And okay, that's been a fun thing lately. Like I got a record player.
Ooh.
I'm so happy about it. So it kind of gives me the time to figure out, like what is an album that I will listen to almost every song on the album track. So
do you have a nice vinyl collection? Like, do you have many records?
I'm starting to build it up now. So like that's been like the process, because I'll do like a little bit of older. Like I have Michael Jackson's Bad and Thriller. I have Purple Rain from Prince. But then I'll also do like more modern too. So I have, well, it depends what you think of modern. I have like the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And then I think the most recent one I have is like Kalani's last album, which was like 2020.
Yeah, that's pretty modern.
Yeah. So it varies.
I had like 4 or 5, maybe 6 records. So I don't have a vinyl player of my own. Mm-hmm. I worked in a bar for a while, the Grand River Ballroom in Detroit, and there's a record player there, and I was a bartender, and I could just put on, there's like a whole crate of records, and I would put on records all day.
That's sweet.
It was pretty cool, and I eventually started bringing in my own vinyl, because I could play whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I had like 3 or 4, and then I left that job, and I took my vinyl with me. And I started dating a girl who had a vinyl player. And so we would play them in her apartment.
Perfect.
And then we broke up, and she has all my vinyl still.
No.
Yeah. Or like the thing is, I don't even know if she has them because like right after we broke up, she moved. I think, or I don't know because I lost contact with her.
Right. Like you weren't keeping up at that point.
Yeah. And so like I got a bunch of my stuff back from her, but like my vinyl, were lost. And I had some good ones. I had Spangle. I had a Spangle album that was pretty cool. I had like a John Mayer album. I had a Coldplay, Adventure of a Lifetime. And then I had a couple of albums that I picked up at Spotlight that I had never heard of, but one of them was like Warriors of the Sun. And just the album cover was like 8 guys dressed in these like magnificent, like reflective suits of like space armor.
That's incredible.
And they're all wearing like these like crazy like crowns. It was cool.
Oh man.
And then another one that I had was this weird, like I didn't realize it until after I played it, but it was some sort of weird like Christian rock.
Oh my God.
But it had a bunch of like lasers on the cover and like a spaceship on the cover. And so I thought it'd be cool. And it was kind of cool, but I played it and I was listening to it and it was like worship music. I'm like, what is going on here?
Like, what does this have to do with lasers?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I'll know more.
No, that sucks because I feel like, especially those things where you're like, well, I got this, and I just kind of wanted to see what's up because it's like you can't find those again, So
right.
It's hard.
Spotlight, great place to get records though, and they even have like a record player there and headphones, and you can put them like you can listen to it before you buy it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, pro tip.
Right.
I will check that out for sure.
And plus, it's just like a cool place to dance.
That is true. Spotlight is fun, for sure.
Are there any record shops in Ferndale? There's got to be, right?
Yeah, there's a cute one, Found Sound. It's like right on 9 Mile, and it's funny because I would pass it all the time, and I just wouldn't, because it's like if you don't have a record player, then you're like, what am I gonna do?
Right.
But then now I'm like, oh, it's so cute. Like if it's nice out, you can just like walk there and like stop by, look at records, get a coffee. And that's been like very nice and peaceful kind of like routine to do. But then you just don't, like records are expensive. So you don't want to just like keep buying. You're like, okay, I need to come back for this one.
They do last a long time as long as you don't break up with someone that keeps them.
Yeah.
It's like once you have them, you have it for life, more or less.
Very true.
As long as like a lot of times when people move, like they'll like ditch their record collections because it's like if you're moving across the state or like across the country or even across the state, be like, well, do I want to lug this like big box of records?
I know. But then it's just like special value, I guess. I think that's a cute thing that's also coming back. I convinced my friend to get like a record player too, so that we can just trade them because he already has some, but he just like never had a record player. And I was like, okay, we could mitigate this issue very quickly. So
I do that a lot with books. Like I've borrowed like right now I have Scott Pilgrim that Corey gave me. I got through the first 2 and then I gave him back and then he got me the second 2 and I'm on like the 4th one. And I've got like Dune from another friend of mine that I'm reading.
Those are good books.
And I've got Encounter with Rama, another one of my friends. That's a Arthur C. Clarke, just like space.
Gotcha.
I'm really into sci-fi, so I've been reading a lot of sci-fi.
Sci-fi is a good drama. No, not drama. Genre. Yeah. But I think like the thing of like gift giving when it comes to books or book borrowing is really sweet. Like I think that's a really wholesome thing, and it's not something that happens very often anymore. But it's like, oh, like you said you wanted to read this book, like I have it. Or like, oh, this book made me think of you, like you should read it. Like that's really sweet.
It is. And like I've, follow me on Goodreads. I've like borrowed a lot of books from a lot of people, and I read them and I review them. I'll see a lot of the little free libraries around, and I started like taking books from, because that's how I kind of got into reading, was I found a book at a little free library and I started reading it. But a lot of times I'll go and look at the little free libraries and I'll check it like a month later or 2 months later, and like the books will not have moved. They will not have shifted at all. Like, I don't think anyone goes and looks at the little free libraries. Like, maybe, I try to, like, sometimes, but I think like 99.9% of people, like, they love the idea, and people are like, oh, it's so cute. It's so fun. It's so like local little free library. But then you go and you look at it and it's like, oh, this is actually kind of sad.
You're like, no one's touched this book.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And for a while I started leaving my books because I had a bunch of extra copies of my meditation book. I'm like, this is great. Like, I'll go put my meditation book in the little free libraries. Yeah. And I don't know if anyone has found them, but it's good for me because then when I drive past the little free library, it'll like spark my memory and be like, meditation. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It just like connects me with that in that interesting way.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. Dang. Okay. That's awesome. No, you just reminded me I need to like get back into reading.
I mean, there's nothing you need to do, right?
I mean, it would be, okay, I'll rephrase.
There are like
it would
optimal
be a good
activities.
Thing for me to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you have any books that you have that you want to read or?
So I feel like I fall into that cadence where like I'll look at a book and be like, oh my God, I want to read this so bad. And then I'll get a little ways through it, and then I'll look at another book and be like, I want to read that instead. So like I lose interest in books really quickly. And I'm like, I didn't know it was a thing, but kind of just like a person that likes to read in a certain environment. So I really like to read in like the sun, or like when it's nice outside, or like on a beach. So it's very particular when I read. And so I'll more likely finish books in the summertime. But all the other times, so like during the winter, any of that, like I just don't, I'll pick up a book and then put it down, or pick up a book and pick up another one. So in a perfect example, like I said, I wasn't going to get into a series because the series is too long. But then I got trapped in the whole Game of Thrones thing. So that's got me in a chokehold. But then also I wanted to also read like Oppenheimer's biography at a certain time. And so I got that from the local library, and that was actually a really good read, but that I went through a period where like I can't finish this by the time I need to return it, so I had to give it back.
Oh, yeah. I found something really interesting where I would think that about myself, like, oh, I want to read this book in a nice environment, like go to the park or go outside, like whatever.
Exactly.
And I had this experience, and I had the same experience that my brother had, where it was like, I'm going to go someplace nice and read this book in the nice park.
Yeah.
I went to Cranbrook once, and I was like, oh, I'm going to bring my book to Cranbrook and like walk around. They've got a lot of outdoor like garden space there, and some just like really nice like walking paths and things. And I got there, and it was so nice that I didn't want to read. I was like, why would I stare at inside this like book that's just words when I could like look up and look around and there's like all nice nature around me.
Exactly.
And my brother had the exact same experience because he was home for something or other, and I had seen him, and he was like, oh, I'm looking for a place to read my book. And I was like, oh, Cranbrook's really nice. And he went there, and he's like, I got there and I didn't even read my book because I was just walking around because it was so nice.
It's like I got so distracted.
Yeah. And I think the same thing could happen with like any place. Like you go to the beach, it's like, oh, why would I read a book? I'd rather like spend time with my friends that I came to the beach with.
Exactly.
So it's like sometimes I don't think like reading is always the best thing because it can like pull you away from like real life interactions. Like I don't think we should ever be saying like, oh, sorry, like I can't exist in the real world, gotta read my book.
Gotta read.
But I read while I'm at work, and it's like, almost the opposite of that. It's like my little escape from, the being surrounded by pizza boxes.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Cause I think I do like the opposite. So when I'm at home and you're like, oh, I'll just like read a few books, or like I tried to do the thing like, oh, I'll read before bed, like all that. But then I'll just be like, no, I have other things that I should be doing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When I'm here, I'm like, why would I read? Like I could cook food. I
could do so many other things. No, I get that. So it's a catch-22, if you will, for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It really makes me like wonder about some of these, like the like Fahrenheit 451, like this idea of like someone being so against books, but it's like, I wonder if there was like a reasoning behind it. I mean, of course, that's science fiction. So
well, like, I mean, not necessarily. I mean,
Yeah, I
people
mean,
are
burning
banning
books.
like right now.
Yeah, burning books is a real thing.
Oh,
It's
man.
like, I
No,
wonder. Yeah,
it is interesting because I think like the whole point of like wanting to ban books is really like you don't want the like spread of knowledge, because I think like especially for
Yeah.
like Fahrenheit 451 and why it keeps coming up is that like history tends to repeat itself, and even though it's a very dystopic and very like, oh, this would never happen, it gets to certain times in history where they're like, no, we need to burn or ban books. And so if you can relate to what's happening right now to that book, which you should never be able to do, right? Then it shows like the state of health of like where you're currently living in the society that you're living in. So I think it's just being able to say what people can and can't do, having that kind of power and control, but then also kind of just shutting out any of the voices that you don't want to hear. Because I think a lot of people can do like different levels of like escapism through books and reading.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think personally.
absolutely.
First.
Uh,
It's hilarious how we got here.
yeah, right. We've been really like following some interesting paths. It's cool.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah. It makes it difficult to get back to like, okay, so then what do you want to buy?
I know. I'm like, now
Like, wow,
everything's just
That's like heavy. Like, yeah, you're right.
like now everything's just gonna sound so cliche. It's just like, yeah, I'll just like travel. But no.
Yeah, here Jamaica's pretty nice.
Yeah, this time of year.
Today specifically, I'm sure they're lighting up. Hey.
Oh my gosh. Wait, has anyone ever asked you, or have like you answered what you would do?
Yeah, people ask me all the time.
Okay. Well,
I
like,
mean, I would have like I would probably get a house
Yeah.
of some kind, and invite a bunch of like close friends over to just to like have a good big party.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would travel. I think I would have like get kind of like an entourage, and just like we would be living in luxury, like private jets, limousines.
That like literally like that show. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't actually seen the show, but probably like the show. And yeah, just kind of like do whatever we want. I would want to find people that are like in it. Like I don't want to say explicitly that I would start a cult, but I would kind of like want to start a cult.
I think you would start a cult.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Get some land.
I feel like you would be successful.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Yeah. If I had that much seed money, for sure. It'd be hard to fail.
Yeah, it's just like, will people follow me or not? And then how far will they follow me? But if money's involved, I mean, hey.
Yeah. That's the difficult thing about it, right? Because you want people to be able to feel comfortable enough that they can quit their job and that they don't have to work anymore. But you don't want them to feel like they're so attached to you that they like rely on you for everything, because then it's like, whoa, like, no, like, go live your own fucking life. Like, I'm not your boss. Like,
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing. You'll just have to like keep your hobbies.
and then it's like you become like responsible for them in a way. And it's like if they end up in like jail or something because now they're like
Exactly.
unemployed and probably like drunk or something. It's like, no.
They just have no rules. They're aimless.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to set them on a task or something. You got to have some kind of structure.
I love that it's really just like laying out like the rules of a cult. Like, okay, like step one,
like,
but
be
then you gotta
chill.
give them a mission. Like you gotta, like they gotta do something. They can't be aimless.
I
And
think
then-
I might start some kind of business.
Yeah.
I've been really into this like candy thing.
Yeah.
Like I've made 2 batches of good candy and burned just as many, but now I'm like all in. I'm like, I should start a luxury candy company.
You're like, this is what people need right now. Luxury candy company.
I've thought a lot about it. I've even looked into like, and the coolest thing is like it only has like about 3 ingredients. So it's like corn syrup, sugar, and then like citric acid flavoring.
Okay.
And so like 2/3 of that at least, like you could totally grow like sugar cane. Like you buy a piece of land, buy some sugar cane, buy some corn. You get whatever processing things you need to like granulize the sugar.
Sure.
And then you just like cook it up into candy. And you know, whatever packaging, whatever else you do.
Amazing.
And then once you have that like company, and you have a name to put it under that's not like just your cult name, then you can be like, oh yeah, all of this is in the name of glass. And then you can start holding events.
Glass.
You can be like, yeah, right. I've thought about this a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. And then
God.
you can start like holding events, holding concerts. You can do whatever you want. You'd be like Red Bull and just be like,
through.
oh, like let's say you want to go like helicopter or whatever, sponsored by Glass. Like,
So that's a hard ass name. I really like that. Like, oh, like sponsored by Glass.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
The only thing is, it's a little bit too generic as far as like search engine optimization goes. Because if someone searches Glass, so it'd have to be like one name that I was actually thinking about. Because fun fact for those of you who don't know, I'm a felon. Conspiracy to distribute MDMA. Yeah, in like 2 years I'll be able to get it expunged and I'll be all clear.
Gotcha.
It was like 5 or 6 years ago. Big reason that I'm like totally sober of everything. It's just because I do not want to get in trouble again.
I get that. Yeah.
But so I was thinking, because a lot of these like products have like, oh, our story, like we're a family and we think you need oatmeal in your life. Yeah. Like I could be like Felon Glass.
That would be
like Felony Glass. And that'd be the name of my candy company.
Felon Glass. I think it just has a ring to it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Like, what is that? It's like, oh, it's Felon Glass. Like, you haven't heard of it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. You should keep up with that. I feel like that's a name that would stick. Because you'd be like, how did this come together?
Well, you think felon or felony? Because I was thinking like Felony Glass. That kind of
like, I feel like off. The E, like the felony, and then like the
or like glass, like, yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like Felon Glass kind of like rolls off a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
But who would I know?
FG.
I'm not a cult leader, so I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there yet. There's still a lot to like.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. I mean, does the world really need another candy company? I don't know. I'll probably just keep it with, you know, for friends and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a little like small business startup type of thing.
I was looking into Michigan has like what's called cottage law for certain foods that don't need like preservatives or anything, where you can cook stuff in your home kitchen and sell up to like $20,000 worth of product. The only rules are it has to be labeled in a specific way that says like this was cooked in a home kitchen, and I personally would have to sell it. I couldn't like distribute it, which would be annoying because that's what I would want to do, you know, get it in like restaurants and stuff.
Exactly.
But yeah, like who knows? Look for me at farmers markets maybe.
For sure. I mean, that's like a nice way to start, and it's gonna be nice outside anyway. Like, good way to meet people, you know.
And it's a nice like commodity, you know. So it's not something like with my books. It's like I sell someone a book, and then it's like, okay, now they have my book. They're never gonna want it anymore. It takes me fucking years to write a book. like I'll be on the lookout for the next one.
You're like candy, easy.
Yeah,
just
candy. Yeah, keep coming back. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I respect that. You thought this through a lot.
So. Do you think if you were going to start a business, it can be anything, like something that you like or enjoy doing, or like a product that you're passionate about? Well, what kind of business would you want to start?
Dang. I don't even know. Well, okay. So like, would it be, and it could be any type of business.
Yeah. Anything. Service, product, like entertainment media.
I feel like if I wanted to like just completely change my life and just like drop everything and be like, hey, like just do like, you can be, I don't know, like start up your own like yoga company or like.
Ooh, are you like a yoga teacher?
Well, I'm not, but I feel like that would be a really cool thing that if you actually dedicated it to, because I've been doing yoga for like a while now, for like years now. That's the only thing that I've kept consistently doing. So I'm just like, okay, like maybe I'd want to explore something in that, because it's like, okay, if you do it more, then your body just benefits from it constantly. And then it's a cool environment to be around. So I don't really see any cons there. I feel like producing something would be like, I could do it, but I'm like, oh,
right.
What if you get bored of it? Or then you have to like be innovative and then create something new. Crazy. So
I have thought about being a yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken like hundreds of hours of yoga classes. I've never gotten like certified as a yoga teacher, but I feel like I've even taught like one or two classes just like casually with some people. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really was thinking about starting, like when I got this place.
Yeah.
I actually like rearranged the decorations in here twice because I wanted to turn like this area into like a yoga studio. Then I could invite people over and have like little yoga classes. But it's just like a little bit too small. Like I think like to comfortably do yoga in here, if I've moved everything out of this room and it would still only be able to fit like 3 or 4 people. And it's like, that's just like a little bit too small to be able to do something. But I mean, even in the park, there's a yoga class I've gone to a lot. This teacher, Marina, where she'll just like have people meet in the park.
Yeah. I do like park yoga. It is really nice. And then, you wouldn't have to worry about space because that's the only thing. It's just like the upfront cost for actually having property and like a reliable property is the only thing that would be tough. But
if you started a yoga thing, would you want to be like a yoga teacher?
Yeah, I would start that way, like be a yoga teacher and then just be like, oh, I have to retire from my yoga teachings and then just lead this philosophy. And then I think it actually, now the more that I talk about it, it is kind of sounding a little bit more like a cult now. Like it's going down that pathway.
Just a yoga class?
No, just like having like a yoga empire where you bring people in and like all these things. And then, oh my God, like this is the only yoga you can do. And yeah, so, okay.
And do you have a name for your kind of yoga or a specific kind of yoga that you practice?
Well, I would have to come up with a cool name. Like you came up with glass and everything. I have to come up with something cool too. And there's so many things, but like you don't, like I feel like the name you can't mess up. Like the name is going to be the most memorable, right?
Yeah.
I'll get back to you on that. I have to think about it a little bit more. Yeah. It has to be something cute and cool, but also memorable. So
yeah,
we'll figure it out from there,
Right.
Cool.
Yoga Empire.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good.
Naturally. But like not one that's, because I feel like if you think of a yoga empire, it would be based in the West Coast. Like, no, we're not doing that.
Oh yeah, it's got to be from California or something. Just no yoga for all the people.
Exactly.
I saw something once that in like another country somewhere, yoga was banned, and I was so surprised. I was shocked. I was like, why? How?
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like it had to be like kind of how we were talking about books. It had to be some sort of thing where like whatever was happening in that society was just so good and everything was like so figured out or so streamlined that it was like, no, everyone's got to be doing their thing. Like we can't be like wasting time with your like stretching or this. And it's like, no, yoga's great. Yeah.
It's like, how dare you do yoga? That's crazy. I have to look that up. I've never heard of that before.
And I think it might be also like tied to like a religious thing because I know like actually while I was growing up for a while, I think my mom didn't want me doing yoga because she thought it was like really tied with religion. I feel like yoga nowadays is not nearly as tied, but people would hear the word yoga and think it was like intimate with like Hinduism or like the idea of like different Eastern beliefs.
The amount of things that like people do for fun, but then was at one time like, if not banned, but like kind of like had a negative connotation because of like other religious groups is actually funny.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like Harry Potter books, like I remember.
Oh yeah, I was not allowed to read Harry Potter. Yeah.
They're like, that's
I still
witchcraft.
haven't.
Oh no, you have to.
Well, what I always told myself is that if I have kids, which who fucking knows,
right?
That I would want to read them Harry Potter, and then we could experience it together for our first time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No, those are good books for sure. But yeah, like anything fun, they're like, you know what, doesn't tie back to Christianity, so we're gonna have to take that out.
Yeah. It's quite the organization.
Very successful. I mean,
yeah,
had a good run.
Yeah, I mean they've got some amazing temples. I will say some like Catholic temples are the coolest, like architecturally most impressive buildings I've ever been in. I've never seen a lot of like I've seen pictures of like mosques and things that are absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think architecture is limited to one kind of religion.
Definitely not. But just like how widespread it. You'll go to places and you'll be like, dang, there's a Catholic church.
Right?
Oh man, but no, I do love good architecture though. So
yeah,
let me say.
Do you have a favorite building that you've ever seen or been in?
I really like Gothic architecture. And so I went to Barcelona, Spain, and the La Sagrada Familia, like the unfinished church that was built. I don't know when it was built, but it was built a very long time ago. It's actually like one of the oldest non-finished churches to ever be made. And so like you get in a big line, but it's just it's not even.
What about it isn't finished?
Like.
And so, now it's been like too long, they can't finish it?
Yeah, they're
like, oh no, we would never.
It's funny, like the front and the back of it looks completely different. And so it's not traditional Gothic architecture, but it was back when Gothic architecture was very popular. But it's just very colorful, very beautiful. It's kind of like something that came out of like an animation almost. So it's pretty much like surrealism, but like in somebody actually built this building and it's still standing type of thing. And then I think at this point it's considered like a historic like landmark. So they don't want to create too much like additions or adaptations to it. So I think that's why they let it remain unfinished.
Stuff like that becomes interesting, like the idea of like historical landmarks or historical things, where it's like, I think there's definitely a lot of value in, having relics of, like whether it's architecture or like definitely like nature, like even just like trees, the idea of like a really old tree and like not cutting it down.
Exactly.
But it becomes frustrating almost like as like a new blossoming ideas of like wanting to like expand and get into stuff. And it's like, oh, well, you can't go there because they've been there since the 1800s, and you can't go there. That's been there since the 1600s. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't. It's like, oh man, like where are you going to build your Disney World?
Oh no, we do not need another Disney World. I feel like that's definitely a bigger like historic. Well, no, there's.
It's probably not an issue. I'm just like thinking about it.
Yeah, it's funny, but like there's historical buildings everywhere technically, but like
there's entire historic districts in Detroit where like you can't do something to your own house, like you can't repair your own house because it's like historic.
That is okay. I get what you mean for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say, I was like, the U.S. technically compared to like the rest of like the world is not that old. So you'll go to places and you'll be like, dang, this was here before, like, I don't know, like BC, some time period. And you're like, okay, this makes sense why this is still standing. Because this proves that there was people here. Like, that's really cool. But yeah, if it gets to the point where it's like, oh, this is a historical district or this is a store. Well, I don't know. Depends. I like historical theaters. So
I've heard something in Europe. They say they think 100 miles is a far distance. In America, they think 100 years is a long time.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No.
Just like different perspectives you have when, you have different types of lifestyles and, communication and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think, just like different perspectives, seeing new things is a really cool thing to do. Yeah. Even stuff that's in your own backyard that you haven't like seen. Like there's so many things in Michigan that I haven't actually like taken into consideration to actually go see.
It's a big reason. I mean, I've traveled, like I lived in Hawaii for about 3 years. Nice. So that was like a big travel thing that I did. But apart from that, like I haven't really traveled much or at all, in part because it's just expensive and it's like I don't really have the means to do that. Mainly because there's so much stuff going on here. It's like I haven't seen, 10% of Detroit, like, and there's so many cool things, whether it's events and there's always new things. Like it's impossible to see everything because there's, 100 different concerts happening simultaneously. And like cool farmers markets and cool, like just places. And then you start to get to know people and people start inviting you like into their homes. And it's like, wow, okay, there's thousands of these.
I'd say the thing like, and it's probably the same thing in any city. It is not new here. But the thing about Detroit that's really interesting, it's almost like it's almost like a secret city. Like there's things that are going on all the time, but you need to like know what's going on or hear it from word of mouth pretty much to know what's happening. And so there's a lot of cool things that it's like, I mean, like I had a friend who she was great at being like recommending things to me and being like, oh, something's like there's a pop-up here or there's a farmer's market here or, oh, like there's this really cool studio. And like I wouldn't have known half the stuff that's in Detroit if she didn't tell me. And
it's like if you know, you know, if you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So she definitely knew and she helped me out. But no, there's always things to explore.
That's cool. I try to be in the know. I'm always looking for I talked about this with another guest I had on the podcast, the idea of unknown unknowns.
Yes.
Like looking for the things that you don't know are out there. Like you don't know that there's a festival happening right now and, you know, wherever, or you don't know that like, you know, whatever event or whatever thing.
Exactly. And it could be endless. There's so many things you don't know, but I don't know. I think that's cool. You're just discovering new things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty cool.
Dang.
We've been going for a little over an hour now. How you feeling?
Feeling good. This is a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any like maybe closing statements or any parting words of wisdom you have for the people?
I don't even know about parting words of wisdom, but just, I don't know. Just go out, read a book if you want to, and do yoga if you want to. Listen to some nice records if you want to. And if you stayed long enough to listen to this conversation, kudos to you. So, hey.
And kudos to you if you've made it this far. You heard it here first. Read a fucking book. This has been The Time of Your Life. I'm David Ploof. Thanks for listening.